Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be walking through all the steps that I take to store my car for the winter. And right now we're actually on our way to take care of step one, which is going to be filling up the gas tank. So if you don't have a full fuel tank, you will have some moisture that's allowed to build up in your gas tank over the winter, and that is obviously not what you want to have. So I just fill it up all the way. Some people will tell you fill it up 3/4 of the way. I like to fill it up all the way. And then, if you're storing it for a very extended period of time, you could look at adding like the fuel stabilizer stuff. But if you're just storing it for a few months for winter, it's going to be just fine with just filling it up. You don't have to actually mess with any of that fuel stabilizer stuff. But that's just step one. So there's going to be other steps that we had to take once we get this car back. But before we can do that, I want to make sure that this last drive I take, I'm not just going to get gas and go back home real quick. I'm going to really drive the car for a little while and make sure the engine gets up to temp so that we don't have any moisture buildup. So I will check back in with you guys in a minute when we're filling up with gas here at step one. And just like that, we got a full tank of gas. Let's check this girl out. Filled up. So now we're just going to take this thing for a drive, make sure she's fully warmed up before we get her back in the garage so that no moisture is going to build up in our engine over winter. While we're getting the engine warmed up on this last drive here, I'm going to talk to you about the next thing you should do before storing your car for winter, and that's changing your oil. So I've seen a lot of people actually say you should do it in the spring before you start driving it, but that's not true. You should be doing this before you store the car, with the reason being, again, it's kind of a common theme with what you don't want this to have like in or around your car. It's moisture and other contaminants, and apparently your oil can end up causing corrosion to your engine if it's just stagnant old oil. So change your oil before you store your car for winter, not in the spring. If you want to change it in the spring too, by all means, you're kind of wasting your money if you do that. But definitely you should be changing your oil before you store it in the winter. And yeah, everything is just revolving around moisture when it comes to keeping your engine healthy. Your engine, your fuel tank, all your lines. Any amount of moisture is opportunity for corrosion. So that's what you're trying to avoid with all the steps we're talking about so far, is just making sure there's no opportunity for corrosion to occur or anything of the sort. And yeah, that's what we don't want on a nice car that you're trying to keep nice. So we'll catch up when we're back at the garage and talk about the next steps you should take. And just like that, we made it back. And as you can see, the engine is up to temperature. And we're going to move on to our last and final steps here. And we're almost ready to park this car for the season. I am going to cheat this a little bit because let's back up a little bit and get these parking sensors to stop barking at me. I am going to cheat this a little bit because this isn't going to be my last drive. I am going to take this back out with my wife this afternoon to pick up some stuff for dinner tonight. But this would still apply on my next drive as well, where you still want to get that engine up to operating temp before you park it for the year. And again, this is just to prevent any sort of corrosion or any buildup in the engine while you park it. And yeah, this is going to be moving on to the next step. Let's get her parked up. Just heard the air compressor kick off, which means it's time to put some air in these tires. So this will be your next step. You want to make sure your tires have at least like 10 psi or so more than the recommended tire pressure, with the goal being to prevent flat spots. So some people actually buy these like tire cradles that you drive up on and that your tire rests on, and those are great, but it's a bit overkill in my opinion when you can just overinflate the tires and then rock on. So whenever you do overinflate the tires like this, I'm going to go for 48 psi here today. Whenever you do overinflate the tires, make sure that you drop the pressure back down in the spring if it's still too high. You don't want to drive on those overinflated tires. You just want to store them like that. So let's get some air in these tires. So you can see we have 48 psi in this tire, and I'm going to leave it here, and this is going to be a good pressure to make sure I don't get any flat spots with these tires. And tire number 2 is done. Tire number 3 is done. And tire number 4 is done. So at this point in the video, you have seen me fill the car up with gas, get the engine up to operating temp on my last drive, and you just saw me fill up the tires. Now the last things that you should do is protect your battery. So I use this charger. It's Porsche branded, but this is basically just a C-Tech charger. You want to make sure, actually the language I'm using here is so important. You want to make sure you're using like a battery maintainer, a battery tender, not a battery charger. And there is a difference. I will link a good charger in the description. A C-Tech charger is like, that's the gold standard for these. But the one I have is nice because I just hook it up to the cigarette lighter inside and then plug it into this outlet over there, and then we're charging. There are a couple settings on here. It'll give you a status of where your battery's at, and then you also will select is this a motorcycle or a vehicle. And it's funny because this is Porsche branded, but you can tell it's it's a third-party product because obviously Porsche doesn't make motorcycles. But yeah, get it on their charger. And then once you've done all that, the final thing you should do, and I guess this is probably your first step, so we're doing things a little backwards, is make sure the car is thoroughly cleaned inside and out. And some people will put a car cover on. I don't, because I store it inside the garage. And I just think car covers, they'll scratch your car and trap moisture, and I'm just not a fan of them. But if you have a good breathable cover you like, make sure your car is nice and clean before you throw that on, and then you can store it for winter. So again, we have to fill the gas tank up, we have to change the oil, we have to make sure that the last drive we do, we get the engine up to operating temperature, we have to overinflate the tires or use those tire cradles I talked about, put it on a charger, make sure it's clean, get it covered up, and then you just have to cry for 3 to 6 months until the weather returns. So I'm actually not going to plug it on the charger right now because, like I said, I'm going to drive this maybe later again today, and that'll probably be it for the rest of the year. Hopefully I'll get it out. So sometimes I'll drive it in the middle of winter if we get like a nice day, but with my tires being sort of really, really bad in the back, and I'll show you guys here, I definitely need a new set of tires before next season. These are down to the wear bars. So I don't think I'll be driving this on any sort of nice day we get this winter. So this winter will be a true actual park, and you can see when I got my oil changed, someone leaned on it right there. But I'm not going to wash this car again because of that one little smudge. And yeah, this is a sad day for me because I hate when I put this away, but we'll have my wife's car coming in February, so that'll keep me in the car game, keep me in the good mindset, waiting on that. But it is going to be sad to look at this in the garage all winter. So let me know in the comments if you guys do anything else to protect your car for the winter. Did I miss something? Is there something that you believe is important that I should have put in this video? Drop it in the comments. Let me know how bad I messed this up. Anyways, don't forget, guys, I am doing a 1,000 subscriber giveaway. It's going to be a $150 car enthusiast box. I'll have the link for that in the description. Make sure you get in there for that, and I will see you guys in the next one.